The responsibility of repealing and then replacing Obamacare is now in the hands of House Republicans. In the wee hours of the morning, the Senate adopted a budget package that will help Republicans short-circuit Democratic efforts, if there are, to block the repeal of Obamacare. So hours ago, House Speaker Paul Ryan spoke very emphatically about what he called this rescue mission. Listen.
We need to move quickly because the law is collapsing, but we also want to get it right.
Collapse. There's that word. And immediately, President-elect Donald Trump tweeted his excitement. Congrats to the Senate for taking that first step to repeal Obamacare. Now it's on to the House. To a House member now, and he is a Republican who's not so sure that anybody is ready at the moment to replace it. Repeal maybe, but not yet replace. Congressman from Pennsylvania, Charlie Dent. Thank you so much for joining us, Congressman.
Thank you, Liz, for having me on the program.
Boy, there's some hyperbolic verbiage coming out here, to use some SAT words. Donald Trump said, you heard Speaker Ryan very dramatically saying that it is a rescue mission. Mitch McConnell saying we need to rapidly get this done. The words collapse are out there. Death spiral used by some of the Freedom Caucus members. When you're talking so dramatically about it, is that helpful to this process?
Well, first let me say, Liz, the law has enormous problems. I voted against Obamacare back in 2010 when it was first enacted. There are many problems, and much of this law, many aspects are going to have to be repealed, some are going to have to be replaced, some overhauled and reformed, and other parts will likely be maintained. But before we take this plane into the air, I'd like to have an idea where we're going to land it. And I think right now there might be a consensus on how to repeal through reconciliation, but there is not a consensus yet on how to replace this.
So I'm hearing that there is no ultimate formulated solution right now to actually replace it, one that would be better than what we have now. There are so many questions, Congressman, specifically about how do you get relief from the huge deductibles, which we've suddenly seen pop up with Obamacare. Not so suddenly, actually. It's been pretty gradual, and then people woke up and realized they can't deal with this. So what's the solution to that, which seems like the most emergency part of it?
Well, there's no question. People are complaining about these high deductibles. They're suffering. There are people, they do want relief, as the Speaker said. However, what we've got to figure out is if we're going to repeal this law, and we can do this with a 51-vote threshold in the Senate for major tax aspects of the law, then when we try to replace it, we're going to have to do it through a more regular order process. We will need 60 votes. And the fear that I have is once the law is repealed, or substantially repealed, replacing it will become difficult politically because those on the left are not going to help us replace it, and there will be some on the hard right who will call whatever replacement package we present as Obamacare light. And then that could mean that there are many, millions of Americans who are currently subsidized for their coverages. And we want to make sure those people are not disrupted and that they're not going to be harmed.
Yeah, and then there's the thorny issue of if you just torch it completely and you're not quick enough with a quality replacement, you have insurance companies that will drop patients that have pre-existing conditions. And then what? Then do you go back to sort of these high-risk pools that are state-run? We know that those people ended up paying unbelievably higher premiums, more like 300% higher in some cases.
Well, first let me say that your point about the insurance markets is fair. If this law is repealed without a credible replacement ready to go, we already know that the insurance markets seem to be collapsing, and that if there's greater uncertainty, they could collapse quicker, or that collapse could accelerate. And now, look, I've always liked the idea of high-risk pools at the state level. I think they make sense. Obviously, we'd have to subsidize people in those pools. Many of them will need that
Which is what Obamacare does in some ways, subsidize.
Well, they do, but they also had high-risk pools initially at the state level. Then they were replaced through the individual mandate. But bottom line is, we have a policy question here. We have to make sure the insurance markets don't collapse and that people who are currently covered don't ever experience a gap in coverage. So that's the policy question. And then there's the political question. How do you get this thing through both the House and the Senate on the replacement side? And we need to have the replacement piece ready, I believe, at the time of repeal or close to the time of repeal.
I think there are people on both sides who would agree with that. Congressman Charlie Dent, Republican from Pennsylvania, we thank you very, very much.